Jenny, and today I'm going to be showing you a delicious stuffed pork chop. This is going to be perfect for Christmas dinner, or if you have a Christmas Eve dinner, which is what my family usually does. This will be great for that. You can prep it ahead of time. Also, if you're doing New Year's, it's just a delicious pork chop that has got a lot of the flavors from the holidays all stuffed into a yummy, thick pork chop. So what I'm going to start out doing is I've got a half tablespoon of butter and a half tablespoon of just some extra virgin olive oil, but I'm actually doing half the recipe in the video. You'll see a recipe that serves 4 below the video, so you'll have a full tablespoon of each whenever you make it for 4 people. Okay, so got it in an oven-proof skillet here, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and get my onions. I've got half cup of diced onions and some diced celery in here, and you want to chop these up pretty small since we're going to be stuffing them on the pork chops. I'm just going to stir this around a little bit. You want to let these soften for about 5 to 6 minutes until the onions become translucent and they get soft. In the meantime, I want to show you how I cut the pork chops in half so that I can stuff them. So you want to take one bone-in pork chop that's about 1 inch thick. And what I'm going to do is just cut some of this fat off. Just trim a little bit of the fat on the edges. Just like that. Okay, now once all the fat's trimmed off, what I'm going to do, you want to use a small paring knife for this, a sharp knife if you have it, and then just cut right in the center of the pork chop. And then just kind of take your knife and just run it through the center. Just kind of use this motion that I'm using. You want to get it all the way to the back without obviously poking through the back. And just open it up. Use your knife to just scrape the insides. Keep cutting until you have a pretty large opening. This is about as large as I'm going to get on this pork chop, and this is where I will stuff all of my delicious stuffing. Alright, so my onions and celery have been going for a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a few other ingredients to this. I'm going to add in 1 clove of garlic that I've already just minced up. Get that in there. You don't want to add the garlic with the onion and celery because when it's cooking this long, it'll burn, and burnt garlic is not very good. So, just a little advice of why don't put the garlic in with the onion. Alright, now I'm going to also add some onions, or apples. About a half cup of just chopped apples. And like I said, you want everything to be pretty finely chopped. I mean, you still want there to be little chunks of apples, but about this size on the apple, so not too big of cubes. And now I'm going to add in my breadcrumbs. Now I have 3/4 cup of fresh breadcrumbs. So all I did was I took a couple slices of bread, put them in the food processor, and I had whole wheat bread, whole wheat, white, whatever you have works, and put them in the food processor and just pulsed them until they were crumbs, and that's how easy fresh breadcrumbs are. Very, very simple. Now, I'm also going to get in some rosemary. Now, I would prefer to use fresh rosemary, but I didn't have any today, so I'm going to be using the dried. And what I like to do with dried herbs is I just put some in my hand and I just rub it a little bit, and that just brings out all of the yummy flavor of the rosemary. Already smelling good, smells like the holidays. And then I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of chicken stock. 2 tablespoons. Are going to go in. This is just going to bring it all together. Alright. Stir this in here. And that is our stuffing. Very simple, very easy. And one other thing, if you want to put in here some dried cranberries or maybe some raisins, you could do that as well if you like a little bit of a sweeter kick to it. I would definitely probably use those, but I just realized I'm out right before I started making this video. So, the cranberries are optional, but if you do like that sweet tart flavor, go for it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is turn the heat off of this, and I'm just going to put this stuffing in another container and let it cool down before we stuff the pork chops. Alright, so while my stuffing is cooling, I'm going to make a little spread for the pork chops, something I'm going to rub all over them and give the outside of the pork chops some extra flavor. And that is going to be some Dijon mustard. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I'm going to also use some maple syrup, which maple flavors go really well with pork. It goes well with the apples and sort of the stuffing theme we've got going on. So add about a tablespoon of maple syrup. Add add a little bit more rosemary. I've added about a 1/4 teaspoon of dried rosemary for the 2 chops, and I'm just gonna, once again, rub the herb. Now, some salt. I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt for 2 large pork chops because you're seasoning a lot of meat there, and so you need that much for 2 big pork chops. And then the same amount of pepper. Love pepper and the great flavor that it's gonna give. Plus, Zach really likes pepper, so I always have to make sure I put plenty on there. I'm just going to stir this up, and that is our glaze for our meat. Very simple, very easy to make. And so now, we're going to get ready to stuff our pork chops. Okay, so you already saw how I cut the pork chops open so that I could have the area for the filling. So I'm just gonna take several spoonfuls, and I'm just going to begin to stuff the stuffing right into that opening. And you just want to kind of push it back with your fork because you want to stuff as much into these pork chops as you can. Okay? Get that in there. That one's stuffed, and I'm going to get started on the other one, and then we'll put the glaze on. Alright, chops are stuffed. I'm just going to spoon this glaze over the pork, and you can use like a little brush, or I use my fingers because I like to make sure all those seasonings and all the mustard gets rubbed into every little bit. Make sure you get some on the sides. Okay, so now we're at the fun part. We are gonna brown the pork chops in our skillet, and this is where it's really important. I'm just using the same skillet, but an oven-proof skillet is very important for this because we're gonna actually put these in the oven. All right, be very careful. And you hear the sizzle, that's what we want. So I have this on medium-high heat, so I have a really hot skillet here. You're gonna let these brown on each side for about 3 to 4 minutes. You're gonna get a nice golden brown crust, and I'll show you what it looks like when I turn them over. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get these turned over, and I'm going to see the nice crust I've got here. So I'll let these cook for another couple minutes, and then I'm gonna put them in the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes so they can just cook through. Okay, y'all, I've just pulled my pork chops out of the oven, and look how beautiful they look. You can see that wonderful stuffing. The pork is perfectly cooked through. It just looks delicious. I mean, if this doesn't look like a Christmas dinner main dish, I don't know what does. It just looks awesome. And it's very simple to do. Like I said, you can stuff these and, you know, get the glaze on them, put them in the refrigerator. If you do 4 of them or if you do 8 of them, you can do that ahead of time, a day ahead. And then whenever you're ready that night, just brown them and put them in the oven for 20 minutes and you're done. The main course is done. Very simple to do. I'm sure you maybe never thought that stuffed pork chops could be this easy, but they really are. I think you're gonna love the flavor. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will see you next time. Be sure to check out my website, aprilmckinney.com, for all of my delicious recipes and more Christmas and holiday recipes. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoyed this video.